We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order, March 2nd, 2021. Thank you all for being here. We have a full agenda tonight. Ms. Kinzer, I'll turn it over to you for the roll call.
Ms. Parker? Here. Ms. Kinzer's here. Ms. Hopkins? Mr. Fulbright?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Ms. Urban? Present. Mr. Sims?
Here.
Mr. Hooper?
Here.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mr. Lindsey? Here. Mr. Dudley? We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, we ask that you would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I think Mr. Cobb is on his way. Tonight's pledge will be from the, which grade class is this? Second grade. Second grade class. Thank you very much. The agenda has been posted. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda? I have a motion from Mr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Howell. Is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll vote. Looks like the agenda has been passed unanimously. Next item on our agenda is recognition and announcements. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hickman.
Thank you, Chair Fulbright. First of all, I'd like to recognize Murray Regional Hospital for the great work and all that they contributed to us to help us get our teachers their first vaccination, which happened over Friday and Saturday. They even let us use their facility, and all of the COVID team, and I would probably leave somebody out if I started calling names, but they did a wonderful job to work with them. We started the work probably about 2 months ago, working with them, not really knowing when this was going to happen, but we wanted to make sure we did it effectively, efficiently, and didn't take a lot of the teachers' time. Everything we've heard so far has just been positive remarks, so once again, thank you to both Murray Regional and our COVID response team. And also, another shout out, we had several of our staff members that volunteered to go help and just be there to help, to get people signed in and do the paperwork and forms and all of that. And also to our nurses, I cannot forget them. They're the ones that got to actually administrate the shot. So we really do appreciate that. We do have the second one coming up in 2 weeks, and I believe it's the 12th and the 13th, 11th and 12th. Okay, 19th and 20th. I was really off. So 19th and 20th, and we'll get that information back out to our employees when we have the sign-ups ready. Also, do want to recognize Central High School, especially looking at their broadcasting team. Each year, the Tennessee High School Press Association has annual awards, and our Columbia Central was well represented in these. So congratulations to Kylie Hone. Kylie was third place for Best TV Reporter. Aaron Rawson was second place for Best TV Reporter. Third place, which was a tie, for Best Live Sports was CH Broadcast Basketball Coverage. Third place, Best Live Sports, CH Broadcasting Volleyball Coverage. And first place, Best Lip Dub was CHS Pride TV, Caroling with Roni. And finally, Administrator of the Year for the Tennessee High School Press Association was our very own Roger White. So congratulations to all of those folks.
Thank you very much. It's nice to know we have aspiring broadcasters in our programs. Next up, we'll invite the representative from Maury County Education Association.
Hello. My name is Megan Jones, and I'm a special education teacher at Whitthorne. I currently provide services and supports for students in grades 5 through 8 with mild to moderate disabilities. I'm also the special education department chair for our special education team at Whitthorne. I've been teaching at Whitthorne for 8 years. While I'm speaking to you today primarily as an educator, I feel as though it is important for you to know that I'm also a parent of a student. My son attends Central as a senior, but has been a remote learner this school year. My son has Down syndrome and an autoimmune disorder, placing him in the high-risk category for COVID-19. His physicians advise that he needs to be a remote learner if no mask requirements are mandated at his school. This in turn has put my daughter, a 19-year-old, as his primary caretaker during the day. This is a role I never envisioned for her. COVID-19 has placed unforeseen responsibilities on us all and has altered how our family functions daily. I run the risk of bringing home the COVID-19 virus every day that I have been at work. I disinfect everything that I bring to school, including myself, the second I get home, and it has become part of our daily routine before I will be in the room with my son. Now I'd like to explain what a typical day is like for my team. Our day starts between 6 and 7 a.m. We arrive early to avoid the traffic in front of our building due to the extended amount of time it takes for parents to drop off students with the COVID-19 temperature checks. Beginning at 7 a.m., students can enter the building and filter into their grade level hallways to sit and wait for the bell to ring to dismiss them to class. Students sit shoulder to shoulder on floors that are not sanitized. Once the bell rings, students transition to class and continue to transition each time the bell rings, all at one time. While we do have a traffic pattern to help keep the students separated in the hallway, they often travel in crowds, and the pattern is backed up by students waiting on a teacher doing supervision duty between classes. My students report to my class where the desks are separated as much as possible, and then begin working on their devices to complete their daily tasks. To teach in person and remote students at the same time, our special education team created online lessons using our curriculum that all students utilize during class time. Our students need routine and structure to be able to work independently as they may pivot at any moment. We want them to continue to be successful if they pivot to remote and must work from home with limited support. In between each group that visits my classroom, I wipe down every surface that has been touched throughout the class, including any shared materials, though I try to limit the use of those shared materials as much as possible. The type of cleaning of high-touch area surfaces was outlined in the COVID-19 reopening plan and in our school plan, and the expectation was placed on faculty and staff to complete throughout the day. In a typical day at Whitthorne, it is not unusual to have multiple open positions or simply having staff absent for various reasons. Often classes are combined and teachers are expected to give up planning to cover those positions. We were assured by central office and our principal that combining classes would not occur during this pandemic, as evidenced by the July 20th board meeting, where Superintendent Hickman stated, "We cannot combine classes," in response to a question from Representative Parker, 3 hours and 40 minutes into the meeting. However, this is a daily occurrence. Not only are we subjecting students to sit in a confined space as a larger group, but with the educators in the room, it gets even smaller. My assistants have been attending an inclusion class to provide support for several students in that class that has been combined with yet another class for over a month now. During this time, students must sit on the floor because there are over 30 students and 4 adults in the room. This is in a regular-sized classroom. Each day, someone must record where each student was sitting to try to assist with contact tracing should the need occur. This is not in alignment with the COVID-19 protocols we were reassured of when the school year began. Our school frequently fails to staff our care or sick room as well. I recently sent a student to the nurse with COVID-19-like symptoms. The student was sent home under COVID-19 protocols, but prior to the student being picked up by the parent, the student sat in the office with his mask around his chin waiting to be picked up. A lot of teacher and student traffic comes through the office. These students and staff members are exposed when the student that is exhibiting symptoms is not properly isolated. When I questioned this with admin, I was told it was a staffing issue. The last thing I'd like to speak to you about is the supervision schedule in our building. In the MOU Article 3, Section 3F, it states that supervision duties should be equitable and shall be made to keep these duties to a minimum. I'm about to begin my 3rd rotation of after-school duties on March 11th through April 20th. This will bring me to a total of 44 days of supervision this school year. Meanwhile, some staff will have only completed about 38 days, while others have done 60 or more. I know this is also an issue countywide and needs to be addressed, and stronger worded limits set to honor and value the time of our staff beyond our contractual hours. I would like to extend an invitation to each of you to visit my classroom or any teacher's classroom throughout the county. It is impossible for me to give you a complete picture of a day in the life of a Maury County teacher, and before you make financial and policy decisions, you need to see eye to eye what our amazing teachers are doing. I would like to thank Mr. Hickman for continuing the COVID leave, for working with Maury Regional to schedule the vaccines for us, and for adding additional monies to the paltry bonus provided by the state. We know you jumped from the fire into the frying pan last year, and though we may not always agree with administrative decisions, we do appreciate that you have stood up for us. On behalf of MTEA, I would like to thank you all, the board, for allowing me to speak and share my concerns this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Under public delegations, I know we have one person who has already contacted us about speaking tonight. Is there anyone else that signed up, officer? No, sir. Okay, thank you. This time then, I'll ask Ms. McCartney to come up, and you will have 5 minutes. If you could, just tell us, my glasses are blurry, I'm sorry. Just tell us your name and where you live, and then you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening to you all.
Hit the button on the mic, that on-off button. There you go.
Good evening to you all. My name is Avalon McCartney, and I'm a high school student at Spring Hill here in Maury County. I live in Spring Hill. Do I begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My name's Avalon McCartney. I'm a sophomore at Spring Hill High School here in Maury County, and my mom is a nurse. And since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic started, me, her, and my family have all tried really hard to do what health experts have been telling us to do. We wear our masks, we wash our hands, and we maintain social distancing. We are doing our part just like Governor Lee has asked all Tennesseans to do. But people in Maury County aren't taking this virus seriously. Masks aren't required at school, and less than half the students wear one. As a result, my school has been open and closed multiple times, and this has made it really hard to keep up. COVID-19 cases in Maury County are still at high levels. Currently, there are 117 active cases, and over the last 7 days, we have averaged 17 new confirmed cases per day. This affects not only those who get sick, but students who are forced to stay home because of school shutdowns. This is a serious problem with a simple solution: masks. So I am bringing you a petition tonight signed by over 800 people, the majority of whom live in Maury County and Tennessee, asking you to require masks in our schools so that they can be open, stay open, and be safe. Our own health experts, or our own health, depends on the health of the person next to us and the person next to them. Most of us believe that our own well-being is tied to everyone else's. In my school, there is simply not enough space to meet the social distancing guidelines recommended by the CDC. This makes mask wearing even more important. I, along with over 800 other supporters, are simply asking you to do what tens of thousands of Tennessee health experts have been asking us to do. I, along with 800 other supporters, are simply asking you to do what tens of thousands of Tennessee health professionals, doctors, nurses, and the CDC have all called for to make sure our schools are safe places for everyone, students, teachers, and families. While we are waiting for everyone to get vaccinated and the vaccine to help stop this pandemic, please give us the protection we need to stay safe and healthy. Mr. Lindsay, Ms. Kinzer, Ms. Parker, and Ms. Hopkins, I thank you all for supporting the recommendations of the health professionals and the CDC to make our school safe places. Mr. Fulbright, Mr. Howell, Mr. Moore, Ms. Evans, Ms. Irvin, Mr. Sims, and Mr. Hooper, can I count on you to do the same to keep me, my families, my teachers, and my fellow students safe? Thank you.
Thank you very much. if you want to drop your petition up here, I can take it and we can enter it into the record. As per our board policy, we don't have open discussion following speakers, but we do thank you for your effort, your concern, and this will be entered into our record. Thank you. Item number 6 will be staff reporting. I believe I'll go with Mr. Perriman first.
Good evening, guys. We have an introduction tonight. You may remember on the last Teams meeting, I said that once we were in person, we had some things we had been waiting to do, and we want to introduce you to your newest staff member, who is also a staff member that we share with the Maury County Sheriff's Department. For approximately the last 12 years, we have contracted with a company out of East Tennessee that would provide dog services to our high schools. This is a necessary but it's not the part of school we like to talk about, but it is something that we have to do. And with our SROs in our buildings, we often run functions where we run into issues. A couple of years ago, under Mr. Breeden, we started talking with the Sheriff's Department, and we agreed that we would move forward with a plan in which we would help through our safety money to fund the purchase and the training for a canine that would be housed within our school system. I'll let Officer Cheek introduce her here in a second. But this officer is housed at Spring Hill High School. Our plan calls for that next year we will purchase a second canine, and we will have training. That dog will be somewhere within our district too. Our agreement is that this dog serves in our school in many capacities. It obviously is there to help detect things that shouldn't be in our school, in the parking lot, anywhere like that. But as you look at Maisie, she doesn't look like the normal canine that you think of a police dog being. This was purposeful this year in that she can be taken into our elementary schools for training. And she can work with students of all ages to help do exactly what the SRO program does, which is expose students to law enforcement on top of all of the other benefits that we see. So I'm going to introduce Officer Kyle Cheek, who is a former canine officer and who has kind of overseen this process, and Deputy Rebecca Orlow, who is one of our 2 SROs at Spring Hill High School, and I'm going to let them talk to you about Maisie here.
Like he said, I'm Sergeant Cheek with the Sheriff's Department. I'm one of the sergeants that's over the SRO program. Maisie is a 2-year-old border collie that is able to detect marijuana, crack cocaine, powder cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, ecstasy, and I think that's all. Meth, if I didn't say, yeah. Meth's probably one of our worst problems that we're having nationwide, not so much in the school system, but nationwide. Like you said, we're going to use Maisie in a lot of different aspects. We will be searching all middle schools and high schools with the K9. Once the pandemic gets out of the way and we're able to do career fairs, we'll be going to elementary schools, introducing the dog to different classrooms and kind of explaining how the dog works. The one thing about dogs and canines, that the dog's actually playing when they're looking for drugs or whatever it is you train them to find, whether that be drugs or bombs or whatever. They're actually looking for the substance that they're looking for to play with a toy. That's the name of the game. So that's the good thing about it. Like he said, she is stationed at Spring Hill High School. If things work out, the next one will be stationed at Central High School, which are the 2 biggest schools that we have, but plus they also have 2 officers all the time. So we'll be searching the schools, lockers, locker rooms, the cars, etc. And we try to make it, and the good thing about having one on staff, if you have a problem, you can call the dog right then. With Interquest, you was not able to do that. They just came on certain days and they just showed up, and you couldn't, if you were having a certain problem, you couldn't call them and say, hey, I need you to come to Hampshire today. With this dog, we actually determine where the dog goes, and you might show up to Hampshire 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row. So we have control of that, and we work with Mr. Berry and Mr. Perriman on how we put the dog out. So, if anybody has any questions, I will be glad to answer them as much as I can. I did handle a canine for about 6.5 years, and when you actually spend your 10 hours a day with a canine, it's almost like a child. You become pretty attached to the dog, and they're actually new together. This is the first time she's been a dog handler, and it's a new dog that's a green dog, so they're bonding together. So the dog actually stays at her home, so she takes care of it, and that's about it. If anybody have any questions whatsoever?
Mr. Fulbright, can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
This time next year, when we bring the second canine, we hope to report to you that this dog has found nothing. Not because it's incompetent, but just because we're there. And I will say, from our point of view, that will be the best justification for any money that we have spent. It's just to keep our students safe every day. I will give you just a light moment behind the scenes. We talked about doing a demonstration in here tonight, and then we said, what if it goes horribly wrong? What if someone does? They were excited to show you that she can really do this, and we pumped the brakes. So if you have questions or concern, not only tonight but at any point, if you'll reach out to Mr. Berry or myself or Officer Cheek, we'll be happy to do what we can. And most of our teachers just said she's friendly enough and cute enough that you needed to see her and know that we're very appreciative of you allowing us to do this.
And that's the good thing about being at two of our bigger schools. It's a deterrent. I mean, when the kids know, what was weird is when we were waiting for Maisie to be trained, it started showing up on Snapchat and Twitter that we were even getting a dog, and it just the fact that it's there every day, it's a huge deterrent. So,
thank you very much. Probably the most obedient employee we have within our system, I'm guessing. All right, any other staff reports that we need to cover tonight? Okay, let's go on to consent items. Have a motion to approve the consent items, seconded by Mr. Hooper. The motion was by Mr. Moore. Any discussion on items 1 through 30 of our consent? Seeing none, we will vote. The consent items were passed unanimously, and I do want to take a moment to point out about 20 minutes ago, Ms. Hopkins did join us, so thank you for being here. Good to have you. Next is new business. We will turn it over to Mr. Laconin.
Good evening, everyone. So we have two budget amendments. This was discussed at the work session. This is to provide a $448 bonus for all full-time employees and a $224 bonus for all part-time employees. We also have included a visual presentation under 8.1.1.1. If you would like to look at that presentation, it explains why BEP did not give us enough funding to be able to fund a 2% raise, and also why this is one-time funding and it would not be guaranteed for next year. So why the bonus versus a concurrent recurring raise. So the reason for two budget amendments is food service operates out of a different fund, so those funds will have to come from there. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Moore.
All right, thank you. Hey, Doug, I appreciate you having some stuff ready, and I just wanted to kind of go over a few things. I know there's been every year there's always a lot of discussion when it comes to the money that comes from the state. And I just want to be clear, what was the dollar amount that the state is providing? I know they talk about percentages sometimes. There was a dollar amount, correct?
Yes, they gave us $537,500 on the presentation, page 2, basically.
Okay.
It cost about $1.5 million to give all employees a 2% raise, actually closer to $1.6 million. So what we did is we took that $537,500, we created a bonus to fund all of the 1,042 positions that qualify as a BEP position. BEP only funds 843 of those positions. So we got 537,500. We funded those 1,042. On the second page, you can also see that BEP only funds 4 nurses, while we have 27. That's a huge gap. So somebody working right next to each other, you know, if we didn't fund the rest, the additional 199 positions, then you'd have 2 nurses working right next to each other that, you know, BEP, one is funded by BEP and one's not. So
Sure.
To kind of make that a little more fair, to go ahead and allocate this 537,500 across the qualified BEP positions and then fund the rest out of fund balance for the rest of the employees.
All right, I appreciate it. And the second piece of that is too, just so I'm clear, when the state does this, when the state gives money, they use the BEP funding calculation to come up with whatever that is. But next year, they're not gonna increase BEP by that amount of money, correct? They're gonna do it based on whatever other formula they decide to put into the BEP and how they're gonna fund, but it's not like they're gonna automatically increase what we go into salary by this raise. And I bring that up as a kind of important point to make sure that if this were a raise or anything else, because I know some discussion was, should this have been a raise instead of a bonus, that would be 100% locally funded at that point on year 2 and year 3 and every year moving forward. Because as we increase everyone's salary, the BEP doesn't increase to account for that. We would have to fund that locally, correct?
That's correct, and they made it clear that this particular amount that they were sending us was a one-time deal. So if they change their mind and they do want to allocate permanent funding, then we'll be happy to give permanent funding.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Lindsay.
I have a statement I need to read before this. I have a conflict of interest in the item about to be voted upon. I pledge that my vote is guided by my conscience and my decision is only made with the best interest of Maury County Schools in mind.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on these 2 budget amendments? Do we need to vote on them separately or together? Together, okay. Is there a motion to? Have a motion from Ms. Kinzer, seconded from Mr. Moore. We will be voting on both these budget amendments together. So like I said, these are both budget amendments together. Mr. Laconin has explained all the needed information, it appears. We're ready to vote. We have unanimous approval. Next up, salary funding bonus. Is that what we just?
That's a duplication.
Okay.
Feel free to move on.
That's what I thought. Didn't know if you were springing something else on us or not. Zoning and facilities.
Good evening, guys. The only thing we have tonight for you is the soil conditioning that we talked about at Battle Creek Middle School for the softball and the baseball field. As you remember, during the work session, we mentioned to you this was one of the items that when we closed out the Battle Creek project with Hewlett Spencer, we had around $54,000 left, and we said there were small items that needed to be completed, but we did not feel that we needed to pay them to oversee that. This is one of the items that we were asking to do. This is simply conditioner for those 2 fields for them to begin play on. This is not something that we would do annually, but this is the first time in the first year for those fields to actually see action. And this was something that was not completed when they built it. So this does come from 177 funds that are Battle Creek funds that were left over from those 2 projects up there.
Motion to approve from Mr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Lindsay. And this is, Game Time Sports will be providing this according to the information in the packet. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. We have unanimous approval, and I want to commend you for using a local vendor for this. Thank you. Anything else for your department?
If I could take one liberty, we do have it, and somehow it got moved down to under FYI. Randy Malden from Train is here, and he has a presentation for you guys. And I think that this would fit better here than waiting to the end.
Sounds good.
If that's okay.
Yeah, come on, please. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Well, thank you for letting me be here.
Mr. Laconin, do you have a deposit slip big enough for that? Mobile.
We do have mobile deposit.
Okay. We always like to see somebody with a check, so I'll turn it over to you.
It's always a great night. Thank you very much. But even before that, just a few things I want to cover. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you also for your leadership that you provide to our schools. What a tough year to be a school board member. Tough year for teachers, tough year for principals and administrators too, and leaders of our school system need to be complimented as well, and thank you very much. 3 things I want to talk about tonight. First of all, I want to highlight some people on your staff. Murray Ring and his staff, Murray Ring over your maintenance department. Scotty Cheek is also a member of your maintenance department. One other person I do want to point out is a man by the name of Cody George. Cody George has gotten in, rolled up his sleeves, and he has learned this program. He has learned how to control the schools. What's great about that is a person that's gotten in and gotten the training and willingly done it, but will call us up on Saturdays, nights, weekends, and say, hey, I got an idea. That's the kind of employee that really helps make impacts in your program and makes, when I'm talking about the second thing, these impacts that you'll see here tonight. So right now, you'll see a couple things. The green box in the upper right-hand corner is where I'm going to start out with this. This is some of the impacts of Cody George in this program that we have for energy savings and comfort in your classrooms. You can see some great results here. Your year 4 savings was almost $800,000, $790,000. That exceeds your guarantee before you started this program by $288,710 just in year 4. Now you're going to also say, yeah, well, COVID did have an impact on this, but the changes that were made in the program, this was a very strong performing program. And when you look at that bar chart right there for year 4, another impact on this was when you added Spring Hill Middle School to this program. Spring Hill Middle School, the savings at that school alone is even better than some of our other whole district programs. So that's how much of a great decision it was by the board to make that, and by Eric's staff as well, by adding that to the program. You can see the other benefits of the program. The environmental impacts have been tremendous for you here. You can see also what you've got with this also. Another area I do want to point out, your total program savings since you've started this program. Last year you received a milestone award for exceeding $500,000 in savings since the program started in 3 years, which was also a tremendous result for you as well. Now you've saved over $860,000 to your bottom line since this program started. That's over and above the guarantee that Train had. So that's how that impacts you as well. One other thing we do, when we do programs with you, improve the schools and other programs, other upgrades that you have voted on, we are an energy services company. And since we are an energy services company, the United States government allows us to claim a tax rebate. That tax rebate is a 179D tax rebate because we're a publicly traded company, we're an energy services company, and we're doing improvements in public space in your schools. So what we do is we take the responsibility, we submit to the United States government for the 179D tax rebate. We share this rebate with you. And what I'm here to present tonight is a check for the 179 rebate you can see here of $49,865 that Train was able to get and share with Maury County Public Schools. Okay? And this program, it's two other people I do want to point out too that help lead this program for you as well. Eric Perryman, him and his staff, Dave Hall, they get into this and they see that they are seeing real improvements, real tangible improvements that happen in your schools and in your classrooms, that they see the benefit of that. So that's another great aspect that you've got. There are two people that are help leading this program too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's good news to have.
Can I say one thing just to thank you guys
Yes, sir.
in conjunction with that? The work that we put in, and I know Train is they're making money and they're working with us, but the benefit has been tremendous to our schools, both with the quality of the climate. But I think that I would speak for everyone that says when we went to the commission in the last few months in the fall, and we spoke to them about the need for the HVAC repair or replacement at Santa Fe that we will be doing this summer, they came with us, not just simply to say, hey, we're the ones that are going to sell this to you, but the same type of information that they provide to you in the monthly report, we were able to provide to the commission. And we were able to show them that we're not just coming and saying, hey, we need $2.7 million because we think that's what it's going to cost. We were able to show them that we know this is what it's going to cost, and based on the historical performance of these other buildings, this is how it's going to benefit not only the school board, but this community at large in the payback that comes there. The folks that he mentioned, and I've said this to you before, Murray Ring and Scott Cheek and Cody George, they don't want you talking about them. They don't want you to know that they're doing this work, but it's tremendously important for us to mention they do work long hours. During the snow, they worked extensive hours during the day to make sure the buildings were warm, to monitor units that were low. The systems that we have been able to do because of your willingness to join into this partnership allowed us to keep facilities safe, to keep them running smoothly, to keep them temperate, and then to provide money back to the district. So on behalf of the central office and my department specifically, we spend a lot of time with this. Mr. Hall spends a tremendous amount of time with this. We're very appreciative of you allowing us to have this partnership and for the goodwill that I hope that you see that they are trying to give back to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well.
And by the way, we already have this money because we haven't been in person. This money paid for the HVAC replacement to the server room at Central that houses the main server for all IT throughout the district. And as we go into spring break, that work will be completed. So we basically fixed a problem at no cost to you guys.
That's always a nice thing to hear. I want to take a moment to do something I intended to do at the very start of the meeting and didn't do. But I wanted to take this time to thank Ms. Kinzer for running the show for the last month while I was out of pocket. I appreciate all the work. It's always nice to know that you can hand something off and be in capable hands. And while my family and I were dealing with some hardships, it was nice to know things here were running smooth. So thank you, Ms. Kinzer, and I appreciate all your help and all your hard work. Next is item 4 under new business policy. What do we have? Nothing. Okay. MCPS no-cost play on Pixlet form agreement.
Good evening, Chair Fulbright and school board members. Brought to you during the board work study session, the National Federation of High School Sports Pixelite cameras. It is a no cost to us, free service that is provided. They're giving us free cameras, the network, etc. And it'll allow us to live stream our videos. There's really no work really included or involved that will have to take place from athletic directors or anyone on the site who is determined to oversee it other than kind of flipping a switch and turning the software on itself. And we are being provided this service at no cost again, 2 at Central, 2 at Spring Hill, 2 at Mount Pleasant High School, and then we'll have 1 camera each at our unit schools and the gymnasiums is what will be provided for at this time. So I'll entertain any questions or additional concerns regarding it. We will be able to, provide revenue directly at our schools through subscriptions, and this partnership stays intact whether we sell 1,000 subscriptions or no subscriptions.
Mr. Lindsay. Oh, I have a motion to approve from Mr. Lindsay, second by Ms. Parker. Mr. Moore.
Just two questions. How soon could this be put into place? I don't recall it from the discussions.
About 2 to 4 weeks, they can have folks in the ground to have them up. I'm hoping that we can get them up because, you know, all of our in-sports basketball season has come to a conclusion, but hopefully we can get them up by graduation in the event we got, you know, weather or got to restrict attendance.
If I could ask that at some point, could you come up with a timeline of when you could bring this back to us to, A, talk about the impact or what we're doing, and B, I know there were some other questions about how if this could be expanded to other schools. Could you just come up with a timeline of when that would be a good time to come back and say how this is going, and do we want to explore further? Because I know there were some other options about bringing it to other schools that would cost money, but I think that would be a reasonable thing to just have some time in the future that's you set aside to give us an update and let us know if we need to expand it.
Absolutely, we'll do.
Any other lights on? I don't see any. Believe that we are ready to vote. Looks like just one's in a PDF format and the other's in a Word document. Okay, that passes. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have the Superintendent Evaluation. Is there anything you'd like to say, Mr. Hickman, on this?
Yes, all great scores, please. No, seriously, we, Mr. Moore and I discussed, and the time frame to try to get this done in a timely manner is just not there. So I'd like to propose that we go ahead and accept my proposal and then let us start building for the one for next year.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion from Ms. Kinzer. Second from Mr. Howe. Mr. Moore.
Yep, thank you. And if I could just say to that, I consider this tool that we'd be using to evaluate the superintendent better than what we had. But I think it's still, as he said, I think we could still have some room as a board for us to discuss. I know in my mind, I would like for the board as a whole to maybe sit down with the superintendent and come up with a tool that we all agree on that represents what we're looking for and what he feels like he should be scored on. And I think it would be a good exercise for the board to kind of come together and talk about that. I know we've done that in the past, and I feel like it got, at least initially, for the first few years, it felt like it was a good way to really figure out what we're looking for, and for him to understand that as well. But I would say, having done this for a few years, I would implore that my fellow board members, when the time comes to use this tool, that we all really put the time and effort into giving good feedback. It is really one of our few ways of letting the superintendent know where we are throughout the year, and I would hope that we all really put some effort into it and make sure we do the best we can with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other lights or discussion? Seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote. Okay, we have unanimously approved the evaluation tool. Anything under instructional low bids, operations low bids? Seeing nothing. Tentative budget calendar, you see that on the back of your agenda under announcements. This is a list of what we have to look forward to for the budget, starting March 20th with the budget presentation. Mr. Lindsay.
Just a question about that. The March 20th, I see a long Saturday. Is there already an idea of what that day will look like as far as staff goes? What the plan is for that?
Mr. Hickman, Mr. Laconin.
So that March 16th is basically where we're gonna have a roundtable discussion, explain how the budget process will go and what we'll have presented. The Saturday will be, basically, we'll have department by department present the changes in their budget, what's new for this year, if there were increases and decreases. March 16th was going to pretty much determine how you all wanted to do the budget presentation format. We thought that it would be good to kind of really get in the weeds in this budget, not necessarily nitpick, but at least have people present their budgets, so that, because we did have some turnover on the school board, and I think it would be good information to have, and we can feel like we've put our thumbprint on what we turn into the commission. But of course, that is executive's opinion, of, you know, his opinion, my opinion, his opinion, his opinion, and you know, on March 16th, we'll present pretty much exactly that, and see what the board would like, how they would like to proceed with that. But we were thinking we would try to get as much of the operating, capital, and food service budget done on March 20th as we could.
I guess to kind of piggyback on that, my question is, will we be noticing March 20th as some type of meeting where there will be a vote taken, or will it just be strictly a work session?
Sorry, I know this is weird coming from me, but it would be a work session in which you can take things under consideration, so that when we do have kind of like the county commission does, they take it under consideration, each department as it's presented, and then once those items, you know, there will be items that the school board also wants to add input on, you know, that they would like to see in the budget as well. So once these are taken under consideration, the whole budget will be complete, and then there will be a final vote on what was taken under consideration. And if this isn't something that, if this isn't the process the school board wants to go with, you guys have control over that, and working with Director Hickman.
Sounds like what you're describing is we develop the budget tentatively over these meetings, and then we vote on one big budget at the end. So we don't vote on individual things as we go. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lindsey?
And I'm just thinking out loud, that if there's some mechanism by which, you know, say Chris Pointer brings a budget and there's some portion of it that this board likes and some portion that they don't like, how we can communicate that way when we build the budget, we're building and tearing it down at the same time, whereas when we finish, we have the total package to go with.
So in the meeting, I'll have the budget numbers under the superintendent's request, and we can adjust those things as they're presented. So, you know, when we go over those items, questions can be asked, and when you take it under consideration, yes, you will voice, or you will vote to take it under consideration to be part of the full budget. And I can save that budget with the changes in it at that meeting. And so I'll have the full taken under consideration budget to be able to combine together. If there are things added to the budget, same thing as taking them off. They'll be updated live while we're meeting.
So it won't be an up and down vote on a presentation. It'll be more of a negotiation to reach a consensus. Mr. Hickman?
And for the new board members, just so you know, one of the things is we have to have these dates in by a certain date. It's a framework of dates. We may have to add more. We can say, hey, we're going faster than we thought. And so another reason we like to have these on here, because there's so many in such a quick time, we wanted to make sure, one, you know, your calendars are clear. If not, we may need to look at, hey, let's look at another date. And also, we want to look at, you know, just to make sure we're pacing ourselves at the appropriate speed to try to get this done. I believe May 1st is when we have to have it in.
That's when the private act states we need to have a first draft proposal to the commission. Now, that can be kicked back and forth, and we can there's probably going to be a lot of changes after that. The majority of you already know that. But we have to have basically our first draft of what we need by May.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Irvin?
Not that it really matters to me at this point, but have we noticed that April 6th is the week of spring break? I know a lot of, families travel at that time. I don't know if any of you guys, just thought I'd mention that.
That would have been April 6th for the regular meeting.
We usually move it.
We usually move that one. Yeah, for that one on the 6th, let's look at a different date on that. And I do wanna, well, I might have, waited too long to thank you for not putting this on my anniversary. Every county commission budget season started April 13th, and it looks like if we move this back a week, it'll be April 13th. I know, you tried to help me out. It helps me, keep things straight. All right, any other questions? Ms. Parker?
On this Saturday meeting, what time are we talking? I know long is kind of relative for those of us that have to arrange childcare, so.
I remember a recommendation being made for 9 a.m. The dates are what they are, but the times I feel like are y'all's decision. So, however you feel.
Let's do it at 9 a.m. Is that pretty much what we always do on the Saturdays? Is that workable?
Do y'all want to stop at 5? I mean, I feel like we could probably do a lot of damage in 5 hours. We could limit it to 2 p.m. Would that be workable for the board?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to have some sort of cap on our time, or else we could be here till 10 at night. Believe me, so I think we do need to limit ourselves just so that we can focus ourselves to stay on track. Ms. Kinzer?
I really like the idea of going through it, spending whatever time is necessary. In Williamson County, they spend a day. They get a book, it's right in front of them, they get it done. By the end of the day, they have a budget. And I don't know that we can do that, but I will say this, especially to new board members, it is a learning curve, this budget, and if you can have a better understanding of it than I did the last 4 years in trying to find where things were and what it meant and all that, it is really difficult if it's just handed to you and you don't have the discussion, you don't know what the department needed or what they're asked for, and so I think this is the best way to do it. I realize none of us like a really long meeting, but I think that will be up to us to be here and ready to go, and I know you'll be ready with whatever, but and I would hope the discussion won't, that we can go as far as we can with it.
Well, and what I would then suggest is let's go ahead and set ourselves 9 to 2, and if we see that we're not able to get it done within that time frame, we will be back at it. But I think that should give us plenty enough time to stay focused and get this done. If not, we'll punt. If it's in the budget, we will.
What about lunch? 'Cause it's 9 to 2? No?
Okay.
Breakfast and lunch?
Whatever your department wants to fund.
Yeah, we'll get something. I mean, yeah, we'll bring the lunch in. We'll just work through lunch while we eat. Mr. Moore?
If I could voice my preference on that, I would be more than happy to make this a true long day. I've done this in years past where we've spent multiple days having to come back 2 and 3 times a week. I would much prefer to just make it a one long day and try to get all of it done. I'm a little more comfortable with having an open-ended meeting, but that's up to how you guys run it.
And I think that's something too. I mean, just because we say 9 to 2 doesn't mean if we're sitting there at 1:45 and feel like we've got an hour more to go, that we can't push through and just get done what we need.
And understanding too that if board members, or even myself, can't be here for the full time or have to leave or come back, understand that there will be another meeting that follows up where the actual voting would take place. So.
Yeah, the one thing I just don't want to get us into is saying we have an unlimited amount of time and we just all...
Understood, yes, sir.
This is coming from somebody, being on the county commission with 22 people who like to pontificate. Those meetings do get long, and I want to keep us focused and keep us very engaged in what we're doing. Mr. Lindsey?
Well, I'm just, make a statement. I think it's incumbent upon us that
if we can get these documents ahead of time for us to do a little bit of our own homework, and then we're not looking at it for the first time on that Saturday. So I think us 11, us 10 can help speed things up more than anything.
Agreed. Okay, I think that, Ms. Parker.
Can I just say, is it possible for us to do it starting at 8? And I don't like early mornings, but I'd rather knock what I can out in the morning so I can
Eight's fine with me.
I mean, that's fine for me, my kids aren't up then.
All right, eight's fine. 8's fine. 8 until TBD, to be determined. Fine, is what I said, yes. All right. All right, any other discussion on this? Mr. Laconia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for obliging me again. So what just happened with the time, that is going to happen in the budget meeting. So when we're talking about taking things under consideration, if there's a disagreement, which there will be a time in which I'm gonna need guidance, on what to put in this budget if we are going over a department's budget. And so whether y'all disagree or agree, just put it to an informal vote, and then we can just decide what to put in the budget. And then we can move on from that department.
Well, no, but that's why I asked that question. Would we be better to notice this as a budget committee meeting where we could actually take a vote? Of course, obviously, a committee meeting's non-binding. That vote's non-binding anyways. But that was why I asked that question. And I don't want to get us in trouble, sunshine law-wise, by taking unofficial votes.
think it's more of a I mean, it's pretty much like we do the consent agenda. You know, if we have certain things we need to hash out a little bit further, we can do it at an appropriate time in an appropriate manner. But I think correct, yeah, we'll take an official vote on the budget. I think we run the risk of becoming fragmented if we start approving this part of the budget, then that part of the budget, and it just doesn't provide a cohesion of budgeting.
You have a change in revenue sometimes too. I mean, the BEP comes in late in the spring, so, you know, you can't just go approve something, all of a sudden your revenues change and all like that. So that's part of it as well.
Right. Okay, any other discussion? Any other items? Have a motion to adjourn from Ms. Kinzer, seconded from Ms. Irvin. All those in favor, stand up and leave.